Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to do a language learning update. It's April, we're 4 months into the new year, and I think I have made no videos about language learning for this year, and that's because I didn't know how much time I would have this year to focus on language learning. And I knew that Japanese would still be like my main focus. It's the language that I spend the most time with. But I didn't know if I would have time for all the languages and if I would even improve my Japanese that much, because most of my time this year is going to my work and also trying to get my pre-master degree at the university, which takes a lot of time. But yeah, I know that I have been doing some things for language learning, and I think maybe this year I will make this kind of update videos. And yeah, I hope you will like this kind of videos too. So for now, I will talk about 3 languages, maybe a 4th one, but most of them are just languages that I'm trying to improve. And the first language that I am focusing on this year is obviously English. It's a language that I've been learning for years and years, and I know I am making these videos in English, but it's still a language that I do not speak perfectly, especially I have an accent and I also don't know all the grammatical rules. So it's a language that I have to improve, especially because my whole university study is in English and I have to use it a lot. So right now, for example, we're doing a project on malaria and I have to read all kinds of English articles about some medical articles about this disease. So, and I have also to write a lot in English as well. So it's a language that I'm constantly using for my YouTube videos, but also for my school and even for my work. So it's not a language that I have to focus or to spend more time in it, because I'm already use it that much. So to show you, this is like the articles that I have to read, and I am also reading a lot of English literature, and I almost dropped it. And so it's a language that I can engage a lot of time to, but there are other languages that I have to do much more effort to work on them. And for example, there's Japanese. Even though I have been learning Japanese for a while, it's still a beginner level, and it's not great and I have to focus much more time on it. But sometimes it's very difficult because when I am busy, I can only spend so much time on Japanese. So that's why I also have not made a language learning goals video for this year, because I didn't know what my goals were for Japanese. And now I think I do know what I want for Japanese for this year. One of my goals, it's just one goal that I want to achieve, and it's to improve my vocabulary knowledge and to be able to read a Japanese news article at the end of this year. I want to be able to read it without looking up a lot of words and just understand the meaning in one read. So that's my goal. It's quite a specific goal, I think, and I think it's also something that I can make. I think it will be possible to achieve this goal, because most of my time I do spend on vocabulary improvement and learning more words in Japanese. And I think I still miss a lot of grammatical rules and grammatical skills, and I don't spend much time speaking in Japanese. Both of my cats are here with me. They also want to talk about language learning, I think. But it's I think vocabulary is like the main focus for me in Japanese right now. And I also want to show you some of the new resources that I bought for Japanese so far that I haven't showed in my previous videos, I think. So the first one is from the same company, which is from Nihonga Somotome Books. This is just a practice book. There are 500 practice exercises in here, and it's for N4 and 5 level. And I think, if I have to say for myself, I'm somewhere between N4 and 5. My grammar is more N5, and my vocabulary and kanji knowledge is more towards N4. So I thought this book would be perfect for that. And so far I've been really enjoying it. So to show you how it works, on every page you have 3 exercises. The first one is Kanji, The second one is more like vocabulary that you have to fill in into the sentence, and the last one is grammar. Most of the time you have to choose the right particles. And on the other page you have the answer. So it's very simple and you can just practice, and I use this the most for practice with the particles because I find it very difficult in Japanese to use the right particle in the sentence, and particles change a lot in the sentence, so sometimes I do not understand the meaning. Even though I understand all the words in the sentence, I don't understand the meaning because the particle changes what it's being said in there. But yeah, I think this book is great for just practice practice exercises. You can do it for 5 or 10 minutes. They're very simple, not simple, but how to say it, very you can do it very quickly. So that's why I love this book, and I use it to improve my vocabulary as well, because sometimes I encounter words that I really don't know, or kanjis that I have never seen before, and then I will write them out in my notebook. And I would really recommend this book for someone who wants just to practice. I know a lot of things you can find, of course, online, and if you have the Nihongo Somotome books, then of course there are practice exercises in there as well, but this one is just only practice and a lot of vocabulary that you can take from it. Then again, from the same brand, from the same company, I bought this one, which is 1000 vocabulary words for the N5. I wanted to buy N4, but I couldn't find the N4, and this one was, or at least N4 was sold out, I think, when I looked for it, and I wanted to try out this book, how it works. So I bought the N5, and most of the words in here I do know, but I use it for sentences, because every word comes with a sentence, which is, I think, quite good to write out the sentences that are simple, but do use the word that you want to learn. But like I said, most of the words are very simple because it is the N5 level. And the other thing that I like about this book is that it has this red plastic thing in it. And you can cover the pages with it, and then you only see the black letters or the black sentences and words, and you have to see if you know all of the translations or the readings of the kanji. I think quite important to test yourself and to see if you remember all of the translations and all of the readings. Would I really recommend this book? I don't think you really need it if we're talking about just vocabulary, because if you have like the practice books that I just showed you and also the other books for the JOPT test, then you don't really need this one, because all of the vocabulary that is in here you can learn through other books and even free on the internet. But if you would like all of the vocabulary that you need for the N5 or the other levels in one book that you can just read through, then yeah, it does its job good. It's very simple to use, and I always like this company exercises and books because they look so much fun. They I don't know, are very interesting to look at some points. Not everything, but most of it is quite fun to do the exercises and to look at the words. And then the last resource that I have bought for Japanese in book form is the Japanese short story for beginners. This one is pretty awesome. These are all short stories. As you can see, I underlined some of the words that I didn't know or didn't know the reading of. So you can, what I do at least, is read through the stories and see how much I understand. I do not look everything up. I just underline the words that I don't know, or a sentence that I don't really understand the meaning of, or not entirely. Then after the story is finished, you have again the story, but then behind every sentence you have the English translation, so you know, you can test yourself if you did understand all of the sentences. And then at the end of, this goes on for a couple of pages, at the end you have the summary of the story in Japanese and in English, and then all of the words that are introduced throughout the story. So far it's really helped me to improve my vocabulary and just my reading skills, because first I try to read it fully in Japanese and I underline everything, like I said, what I'm not sure about, or words that I really don't know, I will even circle them. And then I read it again with the English translation and see where my mistakes were made. And then I write out all the words in a notebook that I didn't know at all. The stories, I cannot say that they're very interesting, but they are simple to read and use vocabulary that is important to know at the beginning of your studies. And the first story is about a train ride. So someone who takes a train every day. So the words that you will learn is train, work, shopping, teacher, riding by yourself on the train. Words that you can use, I think, almost every day when you're talking about your job. So a lot of the words I already knew, but it was nice to see them used in a sentence. So I would highly recommend this one. You can also purchase this as an ebook, I think, but I wanted to have the physical form because I love to have books that I can underline everything. So that's all that I have bought for Japanese so far, but I have also used some apps, and an app that I've been using now for almost a year is WaniKani. It's actually a website, but you also have the app form, and I use the app form the most. But WaniKani is only focused on kanji, but of course you can learn vocabulary through learning kanji, but it's mostly focused on how to learn kanji, how to recognize them, how to read them, and it's like a very improved flashcard system. I've been doing that. There are 60 levels, I think, and I'm now on level 6. And that doesn't sound as much, but it takes a long time. For me at least, it took a long time to get to level 6. You get a lot of flashcards that you have to review per day. So sometimes I even don't have the time to review them. So I try to use it every day because I see a very big improvement when we're talking about kanji recognition. So I still cannot write all the kanji that I have learned, but I do recognize them when I see them in text, and that's very important for me, but because most of the time I just want to be able to read in Japanese and not really write so far. So kanji recognition is a very important process for me in my language learning. And I think WaniKani does a great job in learning you that. And the first 3 levels are for free. So I first tried it out to see if I liked it, and it was last year. And this year I still use it, and I have bought the paid version. I think it really improved my kanji recognition and also my vocabulary knowledge. And another language learning app that I've been using lately is LingQ from Steve Kaufman. Yeah, I use it not only for Japanese, but mostly for Japanese, but I also use it to read long novels like Tolstoy in Russian, because it's very easy to kind of listen to the story and read yourself at the same time. They have a lot of books on the app, especially when you go to advanced level in a language, you can find all kinds of literary books, which is great because I love reading. And yeah, so I also try to read more in Russian, but most of the time I use it for Japanese or sometimes for Spanish, because I have also started Spanish this year, but it's more like to get to know the language, so it's not really much to tell about that. And I think for Japanese I use LingQ a lot because yeah, you can listen to the sentences, you can read all kinds of different stories, and see the kanji, see the readings of the kanji, and also listen to the pronunciation. I think that's the most important things in a language where you kind of have different characters and don't always know the meaning of or the reading of, so how to pronounce those characters. I think it's important to be able to hear, read, and yeah, use it yourself. Sometimes I will speak out loud when I'm not sure about the pronunciation. So yeah, LingQ is very helpful for that. Again, you can use it for free, but you also have a paid version. I think most people do know LingQ, and there are a lot of levels. So right now I'm on beginner 2 level, I think, for Japanese. When I be able to read to use the advanced level, I can read also books in the Japanese language and listen to the pronunciation, which is great. It's something that I really enjoy in Russian and in English, so one day hopefully it will be also possible in Japanese. So that's everything, all the apps that I want to discuss for Japanese. And now I have another language that I started a little bit last year, but it was more to get to know the language, and it's Mandarin Chinese. I have not made any goals for Mandarin Chinese because, like I said, my focus is really on my university work and on Japanese. It's the only 2 things that I really have time for. But sometimes when I don't want to learn Japanese, I want to start another language or to work on another language, I use Spanish or Chinese, Mandarin Chinese, because I think both languages are so beautiful and I just like to get to know them and to learn some basic things, like to introduce myself or someone, to know how to count, to know some simple words, to say hello and things like that. So it's very simple stuff. But for Chinese, I went a little bit further than that. I also focused on the Chinese characters because I kind of have to know them for Japanese. Not all the Chinese characters are used in Japanese, but it's nice to practice them. So online, mostly on AliExpress, I have bought some books to practice Chinese. This is an HSK 123 small vocabulary book, and it's just nice to look up some very basic words that you have to know in the beginning. And if you don't know, HSK is the Chinese version of language learning test. So Chinese language test, like the JLPT in Japan. And you have multiple levels. And I know this year they're going to change things up. They're going to make the HSK test a little bit more difficult. You have to, for example, for HSK 1, right now you have to know, I think, 100 characters or something. They gotta double that, I think. But I don't really mind that because I'm not learning for the HSK test. I just wanted to learn some Chinese vocabulary and some basic. This book was very cheap on AliExpress, and yeah, I thought it would be nice to have like a small book that you can take with you to learn some Chinese. The only thing that I can say about Chinese is that the pronunciation and especially the tones are of course very important. So using a vocabulary book like this, it's nice for reviewing, but if you have to learn the words for the first time, it's very important to have the pronunciation and listening to it, so from a native speaker pronunciations, because you will learn the wrong pronunciation if you just read it yourself. The Chinese pronunciations are, of course, are different from the English ones, and sure are different from Japanese. It's very important to be able to listen to the language and not just read vocabulary and try to learn it like that. So it's one thing that I want to really advise you guys. If you learn these words for the first time, listen to them first and use this only, or books like this only, for reviewing. The next thing that I bought is this 300 Hanzi practice workbook, and it's very simple. It was very cheap as well, but it's just a lot of practice to practice the Chinese characters, the Hanzi. And so far I have not used it that much, but I've started out to look up some of the words and yeah, to practice it. And I think it was like €4 or something, maybe even cheaper. And then I saw these Chinese short stories for beginners, but this is a little bit above my level because obviously I'm just at the beginning of Chinese and I cannot read everything in Mandarin. But the great thing about this book is that you have like first the Mandarin version, then you have the pinyin, so how you pronounce the characters, and then let me see, yeah, then you have the English translation. So it's very easy to use for beginners, but so far I have not used it because it's just even this is a little bit above my level. But I liked having the book for further learnings. And then the last thing is also from AliExpress, and it's practice books for the Chinese characters, but these are especially made, of course, for Chinese natives, for the children there to use in school. But it's a whole series, and I thought it would be awesome to have because it's just a lot of practice. And they also give you practice sentences, and there is no English at all, of course, because it's not meant for English speakers. It's just nice to try it out and to practice the words and the exercises. But again, it's a little bit above my level. And so far that's everything that I've bought for language learning. And like I said, I don't want to make a whole language learning goals or schedule video because honestly, I try to do Japanese every day, but other languages I don't have a strict goal that I want to focus on. And I think I will make this kind of updates a couple of times this year, because I think it also motivates me to keep on going with Japanese and maybe even with Chinese, and to see how far I'm going. And yeah, like I said, right now I do have a specific goal for Japanese, what I want to achieve at the end of this year. So I will come back on that, of course, at the end of this year and see how far I've come. And so far, I will try out the resources that I've bought recently, and I use this one and this one the most, I think. And all of the other learnings I do with the app WaniKani and LingQ. So yeah, that's so far my language learning update. So I think you guys have probably noticed that most of my channel that started out as a language learning channel is now more based on reading and books, like more a booktube channel. But I really want to integrate the both together, because I think reading and language learning are two things that really combine well. And hopefully after a while I will be able also to read Japanese books in Japanese, like I'm doing now, English books in English, and make videos about that too. So I want to combine language learning and booktube a little bit together in this channel. And yeah, of course, I have to talk more about language learning as well, so that's why I will make this kind of updates. And also, I want to thank you guys for still watching my videos, because I've reached 200 subscribers, which is great. Right now I think 205. Really, that's just amazing. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you will keep on watching and keep on enjoying the content that I make. So yeah, I will see you next time, and hopefully you enjoyed this video as much as I did talking about these languages. So have a nice weekend. Goodbye.